You are listening to Aim Higher, a Catholic podcast designed to instruct and to encourage the daily practice of our faith. Pax et bonum, peace and good to you all. This is Aim Higher, and I am Father Anthony, here with Sister Catherine, and today we are going to go into the Portiuncula Indulgence. Portiuncula Indulgence is coming up. The first Sunday in August, you can gain the Portiuncula Indulgence. Now, what is the Portiuncula Indulgence? It's like, does he want me to answer the question? I don't know, I was throwing it out there.
Yeah, I thought you got it covered, so
okay.
Your voice is smoother.
Smoother. Oh, come on. All right. The Portiuncula Indulgence can be gained once a year, as I said, on the first Sunday in August. This wasn't always the case, but that's the way that the church has it set now. And a person may enter into any parish church or mission, or in some cases even certain oratories, that they can gain this indulgence by saying 5 Our Fathers, 5 Hail Marys, and 5 Glory Bees, and then another set of Our Fathers, Hail Mary, and Glory Bees for the papacy, for the Holy Father, which would be 6 in all. And of course, the usual conditions remain, having gone to confession and receiving communion either 8 days before or 8 days following gaining of the indulgence. This usually is not a problem because most people do receive communion and go to confession regularly. And if you are in the custom of doing that weekly or even bi-weekly, you really don't have to worry about these conditions because you've already fulfilled them by your regular practice. Now, what makes the Portiuncula Indulgence stand out among other indulgences is that it can be gained multiple times in a day. Very often, an indulgence can only be gained once in a day. And with this indulgence, you can do the one set of 6 Our Fathers, Hail Marys, and Glory Bees once for yourself. And then the others you can do for the poor souls in purgatory. Now, a very important point with this indulgence is that when you finish your set of Our Fathers, Hail Marys, and Glory Bees, you walk out of the church, take a sniff of fresh air, turn around. Well, a deep breath if you want.
That's better for your health.
Yeah, turn around and go back into the church, and you can do it again.
But if I just decide to hold my breath, is that okay?
You can hold your breath. That's fine. It doesn't ruin the indulgence.
Okay. It's funny, Father, as you just started talking about the Portiuncula Indulgence, and it almost seems like it wasn't that long ago, but it does. But I just remember last year the question came up about what the requirements were and how, because someone had claimed that we had on our website that it was 1 Our Father, 1 Hail Mary, 1 Glory Be, and that was it.
Yeah, I remember that.
That is not the case, and because the bishop contacted me, he's like, can you double check? I mean, I knew it wasn't, but on our website, and I did a little further digging. Yeah, that's a Vatican II adjustment, and I know that, sure, we could say for more people if it was only one of each, but quality versus quantity, folks.
I was just reading that at Imitation of Christ for meditation this morning, talking about how it's better to do something, a few things well than doing a lot of things not as well. We'll put it that way. Just not put as much heart and soul into it. And that is, I find, a very important fact. We remind people of that. Even just recently in my many conversations with the bishop while we were in Kentucky together, and he repeated what I've often heard. You can gain more grace, more merit for one Hail Mary said with true childlike devotion, rosaries
Mhm. And I know
without
some, oh, sorry.
that type of devotion.
And I know some people like, well, but that's not enough. But the thing is, if you actually try to strive to say one truly devout Hail Mary, you're going to find yourself wanting to increase that, build up on it. You won't be satisfied if you actually
Yeah.
focus
Yeah.
and make that happen. You won't settle for that.
Should we put the proviso on that it doesn't mean we're saying, oh, Father said you can just say one Hail Mary and you don't have to worry about any other prayers and go about my day. Please, I think you know what I mean. You all know what I'm talking about.
But I am glad for the qualifier, just because some people are trying to find loopholes. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guilty of that in some ways too, not necessarily with spiritual things.
Yeah,
like,
you are.
Maybe like with baking or I'm an imperfect human being. It's like, well, what? But he said it recently too, but I won't quote it. Speaking of Bishop Giles, but I think it goes, we have all the you seem to have no time to do it actually right, but all the time in the world to do it wrong. And maybe that wasn't him. Maybe that was in something else. But it sounds like something he would say, and he might hurt someone.
Oh no, that was a fortune cookie.
But how true that is. We hesitate to just take the time to do it right the first time. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we can't do it, but if you do it wrong.
Isn't that true? Is that it's like, you have to do, it's like anything. There's like a project, something you have to do, and you're trying to find like the quickest way to do it. And it's just like, you know what? If I just did it the way I know, even if it takes a little longer, just do it, get it done. Mm-hmm. And because I wasted all this time trying to find a way out of it. Right. Out of doing the hard work. But we all do that in some degree or another. And just because we're adults doesn't mean that we're exempt from that. Right. You know.
I mean, just to take for example, when we water the gardens outside, I could fill both watering cans and carry both of them with me, or drag out the hose. Maybe that would be quicker, but I do just take one at a time and I walk back and forth. Partly it's a dual purpose, so I get more walking in. So if maybe I could do it quicker, but why is quicker better? Why, that instant, gratification. Sometimes it's better to slow down. I like to take the practice of slowing down in certain things because it conditions me to slow down in my spiritual endeavors. Whether I'm reading something, praying, because I mean, we all know our days are busy and it's like, I got to get that rosary in. And sometimes it's lickety split. You didn't really have much of a meditation, but we all know that we need to do better than that. And sometimes it just it takes conditioning, kind of like also exercise, you take on too much and then you burn yourself out. So low and slow. I don't know what low does.
Low and slow.
I don't know what low has to do with anything, but slow.
Is that like sweet and low?
Don't get me started on aspartame. I can't even say it.
Aspartame.
Is it aspartame? But I don't know why.
I believe so.
Why did I think low and slow? That must be like a cooking thing for certain foods.
Low
anyway, not
and slow.
Well, if you think low is like you try to be humble,
taking like leg bends or something.
Maybe
low.
But why don't we just slow? Why don't we just think of the term low as striving for humility, and slow as in for quality? I don't know. So anyway, quality over quantity, and I guess how we got here. So
well, and that's what we're talking about. That's why you're better off just going up the road, getting a little bit of Cedar Crest ice cream.
I can't do that. That brand's not here.
Do you want me to mail you some Cedar Crest ice cream?
I definitely do not want you to do that.
Why not?
I think it'd be a horrid mess.
Well, I'll send it to you. It's overnight express.
$100 for $5.
I don't know. I'm only giving you a pint. I gotta make sure it stays cold. So this is the most. This better be really good.
And I'm like, I don't feel like it. So.
Oh yeah, you sent me a text, Father. I don't like this flavor.
How dare you? How dare you?
All right. From the silly to the
I was
sublime.
gonna say yes.
Going back to the Portiuncula Indulgence, and remember, uh, next to maybe even more so, but I don't know. Next to, I'll say, All Souls Day. It is the greatest day in the church calendar for the work we can do for the poor souls in purgatory. Yeah, I had to say next to because All Souls Day, the priest gets to say 3 masses for the poor souls. And as we know, the merits coming from the holy sacrifice of the Mass are greater than all the other devotions that we have put together that we can say in all of our collective lifetimes. It does not equal that of 1 Mass. So think about that for a moment. Anyway, what is the history of the Portiuncula Indulgence? And it is Franciscan. And I decided instead of winging it, it's just to go to friarsminor.org. Oh, actually, I got this also through franciscanfathers.com, and it'll lead me. I just go check out the Sunday sermons, and it takes me to my list. Like we already have the 9th Sunday after Pentecost already listed. That's
It's
fantastic.
Monday. Yep.
It's Monday.
I mean, that
Yeah.
doesn't. Most Mondays.
Most Mondays. Most Mondays.
And I have nothing to do with that. That's
So
out of my skill set. But
I go down and I look at the listed here explaining the Portiuncula Indulgence. So the Portiuncula Indulgence, which we can gain every year on the first Sunday of August, we owe to the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. In the year 513, 4 hermits who had visited the holy places in Palestine came to Italy and settled down in Spoleto in the vicinity of Assisium. There they built a little chapel, which afterwards came into possession of the Benedictines and had various names, of which the most common was the Portiuncula Church, which I will add there. Portiuncula means little portion. The Benedictines held possession of it till the 13th century. About that time there lived in Assisi a very pious and holy man named Francis. In the year 1210 he founded a new order, the Order of the Friars Minor, at present known throughout the whole world under the name of the Franciscan Order. As this saint esteemed poverty and lowliness above all, he greatly loved the poor little Portiuncula Church and besought the Benedictine abbot to let him and his brothers of his order have the little church for their use, which request the abbot cheerfully granted. From that date, the Portiuncula Church, which in the course of time was enlarged and beautified, has remained in the possession of the Franciscans. It was in this little church that St. Francis implored of God the Portiuncula Indulgence. One day, it was in October 1221, while he was bitterly weeping in his cell over poor unfortunate sinners, an angel suddenly appeared to him, that the Son of God, in the company of his Virgin Mother and a host of angels, have visibly descended into the Portiuncula Church and would permit him to appear before his throne of grace. Without delay, the saint repaired to the little church and found there all as the angel had told him. Full of holy awe, he drew himself upon his face and adored Jesus most profoundly. Jesus looked graciously upon him and permitted him to ask any favor with the assurance of obtaining the object of his request. The saint took courage and begged that all the sinners visiting the church and confessing their sins with a contrite heart might receive full pardon. Jesus replied to him, "Francis, you ask much, but I will favor you with greater things still. Your prayer is granted, but go to my vicar the Pope, and in my name ask for the indulgence which I have granted to you." The wonderful apparition disappeared. No one was more rejoiced than Francis. The next day, in the company of his brothers, he hastened to Pope Honorius III, and prostrate before him, besought him to proclaim that everyone visiting the church, and there confessing his sins with a contrite heart, would be as pure from all sin and punishments as he was immediately after baptism. Honorius was astonished at this strange petition, and hesitated to grant it. But Francis said, "What I ask, I do not ask of myself. Our Lord Jesus Christ sends me to you and commands me to make this request." The Pope, having been convinced of the truth of his speech, granted his petition and ordered that the little church should be solemnly consecrated and the indulgence proclaimed for the 2nd day of August. From that time, pilgrims from all parts of the world flocked to the Portiuncula Church in order to gain the indulgence. Numberless were the conversions which occurred at the Shrine of Grace. In order to make this indulgence more accessible to the faithful, the popes subsequently extended it to all the churches of the Franciscans. Afterwards, it was extended to all parish churches, and the first Sunday of August was appointed as the day for gaining it. And that is a short little history of the Portiuncula Indulgence. And there was a little extra part to it that was not written here. I'm not sure how long after we received the Pope's approval, affirmation of the indulgence, that it was a solemn ceremony. I can't remember exactly what the circumstance was, but you had a number of the cardinals were hesitant and were not in favor of this being an indulgence for all time. For them, they were saying, let it just be for 10 years, or let it just be for, just a certain amount of time, but not up until the end of the world, which is what this indulgence is being given, being the first plenary indulgence in the church. And when the time came for these cardinals to speak, and they intended to say for only X amount of years, they all said in one voice, "Let it be for all time." Meaning God spoke through these men what his will was. And this is an example of God's infinite mercy and how he wants to give us every opportunity of, not just getting to heaven, but also avoiding the punishments of purgatory and avoiding any punishments here on earth for our sins, to work to make up for our temporal punishments due to sin. And that's like the major point we have to remember, that with an indulgence, which I'll just give you the definition from my Catholic faith, which I have here. An indulgence is a remission granted by the church of temporal punishment due to sins already forgiven. It's not confession, okay? It's not baptism, all right? It does not forgive sin. So you may have a mortal sin on your soul. You perform some indulgence. That does not take away the guilt of sin. In fact, the work itself is non-meritorious.
I was gonna say, would it even be like a mockery in a way?
Well, it all depends. I mean, it all depends upon the intention of the individual. I mean, if they were looking to do it with the intention of being a mockery, yes, it would.
Well, of course, but I guess if you know anything about your catechism, I mean, if you know how to gain the indulgence, what's required, you're like, well, but I'm not going to go confession, but I'm going to do this. I mean, to me, it's like, well, of course, it's not meritorious. Like, it's what the point.
Well, it shows ignorance. It reminds me of
I don't really know how you can actually come to that. It's ignorance. I don't mean that, but just like how you can convince yourself that this would be still a proper way to go.
Well, one could do it because they might be very ashamed of their sin. They don't want to go confess it to the priest, and they want to try to find any other means in which they could be forgiven other than actually expressing it in ocular confession. And there is no other way. if you are able to go to confession, you are obliged to do so by the command of Christ himself and the command iterated by his holy church. And, but this is not about confession. I'm hoping that everyone understands the role of the priest in the confessional is to forgive you your sin, is to help you move past the sin, and so to lead a life of grace um, before God. And the indulgences are there to help us, are to help to remove the temporal punishment. As someone said, but my sin was forgiven. Well, that should be all good, right? No, we still committed an offense against Almighty God. And since we offended him, we have to pay just punishment. Just think of it like someone commits a crime in civil law, a penal law, and then they have to pay a fine or a jail time or whatever. They have to make up for what they did. And we also have to do the same thing. People think, as this idea of justice only is something man-made. No, this comes from God himself. And it based upon, first off, being God and being our creator, that he is it's demanded of us to offer him due homage in justice because he deserves this. And if we go against the holiness of God, we have to repair that. Yes, he will forgive the eternal punishment, but he says, I still need you to make up for that sin. And we do that by good works, which covers a multitude of sins. We do that by our almsgiving. We do that by various prayers. And we have prayers that have indulgences attached to them. So someone asked then, but why do I still have this punishment? And I've explained it, and I explained it to children. It's like you think of your soul as a white sheet, and you throw mud on it. Mud is sin. Let's just say more specifically, a mortal sin. Okay? Well, you go to confession, that mud is removed, but you still have that stain left over. So an indulgence is the OxyClean of grace. And it purifies, because it's if you look at it this way, we go to confession with humility and with the hope of forgiveness and the trust in God that he will, and that's where hope is. We trust that God will fulfill his promises. So we have that part taken care of. And now going to perform all these various works in order to make up for that sin, we become more and more encouraged and finding the practice of our faith to be even more delightful through all the trials and all the tribulations we might have to go through. But we find a certain amount of peace and solace in this work and in the indulgences, which is why the church has attached so many indulgences to prayers and works. And like the things I mentioned, almsgiving, charitable works, these could be the works attached to an indulgence. Now, usually you have to do a prayer and a work. It could be any one of those. And with the Portiuncula Indulgence, the work is visiting a church. You say the prayer, you leave, and you come back. In the Portiuncula Indulgence, you're able to gain it multiple times in the day. So that is a very brief explanation of what this indulgence is, and we should want to take advantage of it. I've encouraged people. I said, if there's any day out of the year on a Sunday to make sure your schedule is clear and to stay at church, bring a lunch, and then, pray. Pray a little harder. Yes, I know, we said before, you'd be better off doing one set well, we'll say 2 sets because one you apply to yourself. 2 sets of this, and do it well, than doing 25, when you're not thinking, you're just mumbling the prayers.
And just going in, backing out. And
Yeah, but but with saying that, we're not saying don't go in and out, but just take your time. So then to recollect yourself so you can now say the prayers with as much or greater devotion when you started, and really thinking about, as St. Francis did in his cell, he was thinking about sinners. He was thinking about, what happens to them if they died in that state. And then you can express it also to the poor souls in purgatory, because we're all sinners. Yes, these souls were not condemned to hell, but they still have to go through great suffering. So to do whatever we can to help them, and then to offer this encouragement to people, it is such a blessing, and one that we should want to take advantage of, but also as an exercise of growing closer and closer to God, which each time we enter that church, that it should be something that is a deeper deeper meaning, and to picture like the vision of St. Francis. Our Lord is there with his host of angels listening to these prayers. And if you are before the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, would you not want to do your best and to grow closer to him in that? So I can only encourage the Portiuncula Indulgence, but I say do not let this opportunity pass you by, because there may be most abandoned soul down there no one else prays for.
Right. That's usually at least one of my intentions, is the most forgotten one. I mean, we're at a point in our lives where people are passing on. So you probably can think of at least someone close to you, or to think of. But I do like to add someone, the most abandoned soul.
Well, I had someone ask me years ago and say, Father, I've been praying the Portiuncula Indulgence for so and so every year. They got to be in heaven by now. So who should I pray for? Here's the thing when it comes to Portiuncula Indulgence, and like anything we do for the poor souls, we don't actually know, or actually even not just for the poor souls, even for ourselves.
Right. I know I'm perfect.
We don't actually know exactly how acceptable our prayers were before God. God does not send us a text message saying, this is good. This is good. That's how I accept this. Or the amount to which he accepts it. Someone could say, I gained a plenary indulgence. We don't exactly know that we did or did not. Like I said, there's no app for this. And someone said, well, that's frustrating. I mean, I'm doing the best I can. I can't do any better than I'm doing. And I said, well, it might be acceptable to God. I said, but we can't tell you definitively.
Right.
All we can say is put your trust in God and you keep going. Let's think of it this way. If a person were to gain a plenary indulgence and they knew about it, seeing that man is a very fickle creature, could the knowledge that you have, achieved this plenary indulgence make you careless in avoiding temptation and then falling? And then a person with that knowledge, that clear knowledge, once they fall, go into despair. These things could happen. That could be a reason why God doesn't want us to know the exact time, because
I never thought about it either way. Like, well, when do we get to know? It's like, well, for me, it's obviously maybe when I mean,
the only reason Margaret of Cortona knew was because our Lord told her that she made up for old temporal punishment due to sin. What this is telling us is never let up. you put your trust in God and you keep on praying.
Right.
You keep on trying to achieve that humility, because as soon as we start thinking that we have achieved the ultimate degree of humility, we have just committed an act of pride.
Right.
We always have to say, I don't know how humble I am, and I am tested frequently, and I see that I fail. So I just keep putting my trust in God, and I strive continuously to go higher and higher and higher. And that's what we have to do in this life. We're not going to have absolute contentment in this life. It's not meant to be now. It's meant to be an eternity with God, to be eternally happy, and content with the beatific vision. That's what we're striving for. And so we should expect in this life to have this uncertainty, I suppose. But what that uncertainty means is that we're not truly putting our faith in the second theological virtue, which is hope. Hope. As long as we have our faith, as long as we have God, we have hope. And we don't give up on Him. We don't give up on His church, which He founded. We have that hope in His promise. Those who do the will of my Father, they will enter the kingdom of heaven. So we just seek to do the will of God. Seek for the love, honor, and glory of God in all things. In everything we do, it makes for a more perfect act and a greater union with God. So we see how deep the spirituality is. Not to get bogged down with the superficial things, but to go deep into the true meaning. And the true meaning we see lies in our humility. And that's the way to really gain an indulgence, is with humility.
Absolutely.
So
definitely much to ponder on. I mean, just hearing how St. Francis was given opportunity to ask for whatever, and I'll give it to you. And he thought of, I mean, I would like to think I would think of others similarly, but I'm no St. Francis, obviously. But just that he was so gracious, as a loving father would be. And also, when you talked about how some of the cardinals were hesitant, and you think, well, why would they do that? But that's how powerful that indulgence is. That, and how easily that could be abused. I mean, yeah. I feel like the changes of Vatican II have definitely abused it. I feel that. I mean, my sloppiness in performing for that indulgence, I definitely every year has to be an improvement, and that's why I try to look at it. It's just until you die, you have to keep trying and to improve.
And the church, as it said here, oh, sorry. Well, the church has tried to find ways to make it easier, more accessible to the faithful, which it doesn't mean that we should take it for granted. It's because the church makes it easier for us to obtain. She just wants the graces to touch every corner of the world, and for those, whether they're wealthy or poor, to be able to obtain, especially this great, wonderful indulgence. But, sorry, a little warm here. But to make it too simple for us takes away the sacrifice. And what probably comes to my mind is really, you see in Vatican II, the holy days of obligation are pretty much gone. And you just go to that Sunday. It's always transferred to Sunday to make it easier for people. I was like, but if you have multiple masses throughout the day, a person doesn't work 24 hours a day.
Right.
They could figure something out. Yeah, and it's supposed to have that little bit of sacrifice.
I feel sad for a lot of people that are in the Novus Ordo that have no clue. They're just raised in it from birth, and like what they're missing out on, what's been taken away, what's been stolen from them. I mean, we go talk about Ember Days and the fasting for Lent, but also holy days, which are super awesome. And I think they're super awesome. It's a way to be a little more festive a few more times a year, at least 6.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess generally speaking, people are festive for Christmas because that is one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we have a holy day coming up soon, Feast of the Assumption, and
It is coming up, isn't it?
it's almost August. It's quite frightening. I am not prepared. So I was thinking the other day, I have less than 2 months before I go to Lubbock. So
Yeah.
gotta get ready for that. And then it'll be Christmas. So
less than 3 months. Yeah, going to go down to Mexico. Yeah, there's so much time flies by. And shouldn't that be a reminder for us to take advantage of these things when they're presented, to especially things of the Portiuncula Indulgence?
And I'll just add, if you haven't, I think most families do include their children and get them active in that indulgence, but just a reminder, if you haven't, they can at least do one set.
Yeah.
So I know that down in Kentucky, when he's able to, like if the flight allows, the bishop will, with some of the children, take them up there and pray with them specifically. So I think, so just definitely include your children. Maybe, you'd like to go more times, and maybe you have to, parents split up or ask someone to watch your kids. There's ways to do it. If you really want to take advantage of this wonderful gift, you can make it happen, because we would do it for a worldly endeavor. That's
Yeah.
if there was a concert that you've been dying to go to that you probably paid at this point
An
hundreds,
exorbitant amount of money.
Yes, I mean, I saw some posts about what people are paying for certain things, and I'm just blown away. I mean, I felt when I paid, I think $60 for a ticket to go see NSYNC, which, yes, I put that out here. I did. If I had to choose a boy band, it was them. But it was also but it was also just like, it was like your friends. Anyway, I'm not trying to justify it. I mean, looking back, like I went and listened to it.
Justifying the concert or listening to NSYNC?
I mean, the concert was fun, but I still remember thinking $60 versus this early 2000 was, a lot of money.
Yeah,
but isn't it amazing what you would do though? You wouldn't think twice for the experience. I mean, people just, and now they're in a culture where we're trying to do all the things. I mean, that is a common thing. We're going to do all the things, and you basically will sacrifice a whole lot to make that happen. And by sacrifice, you might put in extra hours of work. You're saving money, scrimping and saving. You're sacrificing that, and we'll do it for this fleeting or worldly things. And it's not that worldly things and amusements are bad. Just like worldly gifts are not bad, but you can't really enjoy them if you're not giving to God first. We know that. We feel it. If we're honest with ourselves, you can't enjoy these things. Even like if you're going to skip going to church on Sunday because you got tickets to the Packer game and the game starts at 3. Are you really good? I mean, it's just,
I'd be like, well, you can still make it. Oh, but Father,
right,
we got a tailgate. We got a tailgate, Father, and
I think
that's
a 3
gotta have the
o'clock
whole
game
experience.
you could make it. If it's noon, sure, that'd be push it. But then it's like, well, which is more important? I mean, it's football. Yeah. I mean, and I'm not knocking extracurricular activities, extra entertainment. But again, we all know, unless you're really trying to deaden that instinct, we all know how really icky you feel when you did put God on the back burner. Not yet, Lord, later. You do. You feel disgusting. But of course, the more you try to ignore it, the easier, I guess, it is. The more you're in sin, the easier it is. But a soul that's striving for heaven can feel it and hopefully just won't go down that path. So no judgment. I've made mistakes too. So
speaking from experience is what doing, and that's the thing. The human experience is for the most part similar. We all go through the same thing. We all have the same human nature. So to say that nobody understands what you're going through spiritually, yeah, everyone does actually understand to one degree or another. There might be some specifics
Sure.
that need to be ironed out by you and your confessor, but no, generally speaking,
Right.
human nature is the same.
Right.
How we deal with sin is the same.
We're all predisposed in the same way with original sin on our soul. We all had the same start. And so,
Hmm.
it, and just with anything, it's what you put into it.
That's true. Sorry, I had a spider just come down out of nowhere.
You handled it well. Very, very,
thing.
very graciously.
Well, it wasn't like the size of the spider I saw down in Kentucky.
I know what, this past year?
Yeah, it was, the back steps from the sanctuary going down to the basement. The sacristy, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, a sucker was like this big. I mean, it was like tarantula big.
I'm so glad I didn't see it. Was this before I even got there?
No, I think you were there. I was like the first morning. I was maybe you weren't there yet. But I just remember walking, just seeing this thing, going, "What is that?" So I don't know, I'm stepping on it, and I just heard. I mean, I felt the crunch. I didn't just hear it. I felt it. And then later on, Brother Pastor comes to me and says, "Oh, there was this big spider." I said, "Yeah, I saw a big spider too. He was hurt, but he was still alive." Like, what? Ain't no way that thing was still alive. I crushed it. So, he was still alive. Man, resilient little bugger. And tell you the truth, I don't even know if it was the spider. It could have been someone's poodle. I have no idea. It was still dark.
That would have been a rat.
But the thing freaked me out.
This is terrifying me a little bit. I can handle spiders to some degree, but so to our retreat coordinator, before next year.
You have to take care of the spider problem, or I am not coming. You have to give me a guarantee. You need at least three independent inspectors go through this thing, and neither one can know the other one's doing it. All right.
I'm sure I'm
and the expense is going to have to come out of your pocket.
No. I'm
Place has to be fumigated,
or just
like 6 times.
I mean, just
and then
let me walk around with like a hose attached vacuum in the corners. I mean, I'm tall. I can get some stuff that a lot of people can't. I'll just bring my work apron and then then I'll be comfortable.
Yeah, but that spider, if you suck that up with a vacuum,
it might have gotten stuck, which would have been a whole hoopla of problems. Anyway,
the big old hand.
I'm just so glad I'm just so glad that you're. Oh, I'm gonna have a hard time napping today.
I'm sorry.
No, it'll be fine.
I mean, I do remember back in our days when we were younger, I'd be somewhere and you'd get me to go kill a spider.
Yeah, I was just recounting the fact that how I've gotten better with spiders. Like I've actually had some drop on me. You don't really feel how much when you're in your habit, but I brought up the fact that I was terrified when I was younger, and I was definitely dismissed. No one would help me. I remember one time there was a spider up in the corner of the kitchen. I'm bawling my eyes out, and all the men in the house would not help me. Like just, and I was younger. This is not like 20-year-old me or 15-year-old me or teenager me. I was probably under the age of 10, and I'm freaking out. And the message from all you was like, you just need to get over it. So I went outside and took a walk.
I was like 7. I couldn't reach that.
Okay, fine. I was
how dare
12,
you?
Not quite teen.
How dare you? You want your baby brother to go fend off a venomous creature. Oh my
yes,
word.
Because you at 7 were just so delicate.
Oh boy. No, I mean, I did. You asked me, I did. But I will admit, I didn't do it, like, oh yeah, sure. Oh, sure. Okay.
I love you. So
I hit him. So, I love you. It'd be like, oh gosh, come on. It's just a spider. Kill it. Get a shoe. Get a newspaper. Get a something or other. Do it. But when someone has that, phobia, I suppose, it can't. And I said, no, I was that way with snakes. Yeah, I mean, if I get a big snake come by me, yeah, I'm gonna jump. But I got to the point where you see these, snakes. Oh, just eat this animal on my leg, chop off its head. Just take a shovel and kill it. Red and yellow kill a fellow. Red and black venom lack. I remember that from science class.
Now, see, Dad actually somewhat blames Sister Antonina for my fear of spiders because she hated spiders. Like, because I remember going through the science book and we got to the page of spiders, she just quickly changed the page. She's like, we're not going to talk about that. Spiders are, I can't remember. She said, we don't like spiders. I was like, okay.
These are demons from hell. So, whatever I tell you about demons, just attribute it to them.
Well,
right? You need holy water. That gets rid of the spider.
So,
and it burns up in an effigy. Yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, I am not like a fan of spiders. If I'm walking down, I see this big old spider. Yeah, I'm gonna go, whoa, but it doesn't paralyze me. I was like, whoa, I get to kill it. I don't know. I'd rather, if I could actually get the spider out, put it outside. I prefer that. But then again, I don't want to touch the thing though. So I'm kind of what do I do? But I had one young man I knew who also did not like spiders, and we saw one outside, and in this actually a beautiful web the spider made, absolutely beautiful. And he's like, kill it. I was like, no, it's not hurting anybody.
Friend.
It's nowhere near us. That's Kevin. All right. Kevin is just relaxing on his web. Leave him alone. Well, kill it. You want him dead, you kill him. But you know what? Kevin's family isn't going to be too happy. No, I remember, I remember a friend DJ. He had arachnophobia. Still probably does.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to go see Lord of the Rings with him. Now, he never saw Lord of the Rings. He never saw Return of the King or read the books or anything. So if those who know Lord of the Rings, they know of Shelob's lair. Shelob is a giant spider. And I got to say, you handled that very well, sister. I don't remember. I mean, I still, it took me about, 3 days before I got full feeling back in my hand after squeezing it. Mm-hmm. But I think you handled it very well. But we didn't tell him about it. And it wasn't that we purposely weren't going to tell him. I just didn't think about it. And is actually, I didn't know about his arachnophobia until that day.
So it's not your fault.
I mean, he actually was he said he was sweating, he was a little nervous and freaked out. And yeah, and it's like, well, I'm sorry about that, man. I would feel the same way. I mean, I felt that I would go to see Matrix with my brother Steve, or our brother Steve.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in there that shows a fetus. Oh, that freaked me. And my brother's like, oh. Steve was like, oh, well, he knew I wasn't going to enjoy that. But I said it wasn't that bad because it was artificial. It wasn't real. It was made in a computer screen. I don't know what it is about pictures of fetuses that they still make me go.
I'm sure people are like, really? That's very pro-life of you, Father. But
well, I don't know. I'm not saying step on it like a spider. I'm just saying that
I know.
It's human. It's just human, but not fully formed. I don't know what it is. It's like you can see through it. I don't know.
I do see like those 3D sonogram pictures that people take. Like, to me, that's a little much. I understand like the family wanting to see it, but
it'll probably freak me out if the eyes open and just looked at you.
Yeah. So,
but for me, I still get the initial but then I go, okay, this is no big thing.
Right. Just the spider.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, and I had this when I was a little kid, going through the high school biology book and just looking at it, and I was like, oh, I can't look at that. I can't wait until I'm an adult and I'm not bothered by these things anymore. Well, lo and behold, we don't change that much, even when we're a little kid.
No.
So you have an issue, you just work to get over it. My brother Steve said to me.
Your brother Steve, yep.
My brother, not your brother.
Nope.
He said to me, so well, what if you get married and you have kids and you're there for your wife. I mean, and she's in labor. What are you going to do? I was like, I'm going back like the 1950s, and I'm going to be staying in the waiting room, or I'm going to be at a bar down the street watching the football game while all this is happening.
And you would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, let's say it. No, I just say make sure you drug her up real good so she thinks I'm there.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I think most cases the father is up by the mother. You know, you're not right there ready to catch.
I'll get a guy who's there with the full mask and everything, my size. She won't know the difference. Why are you wearing sunglasses? It's a little bright in here with the fluorescent lighting. What happened to your voice? Laryngitis. So, I'd come up with something.
Getting back to like the whole insect killing thing.
Okay.
I know you didn't think that was where I was going to go with when I said getting back, but it brought up something in my mind that is it wrong, Father, to kill the spider?
No.
One of God's creatures.
Well, one of God's creatures, but man has dominion over these creatures. Now, there's a difference between killing a spider instantaneously and then torturing a spider.
Thank you. Yep.
That's when we talk about like animal cruelty. We're not called to put the animal, no matter what it is, to pain, suffering. For human beings, I mean, we know that through our suffering, and we suffer patiently, we can merit heaven. Well, dogs, cats, any animal, they don't merit heaven. So there's no reason for them to endure suffering and pain. It's like the stories of the boy who would take a magnifying glass to the sun and burn ants, or pull the wings off a fly just because you can't see what the fly, hear the fly, they're in excruciating pain. So that
would be wrong.
That would be wrong, because that's a reflection upon the character of the human being as well.
That's.
And very often a person who does that
moves on to bigger things.
They move to bigger things and other people. So that is a scary proposition. But the older I get, the more I'm like, it'd be nice to, if you can let them live. Although I will be honest that spider that came in front of me, I just took my hands and just did that.
Oh, okay.
That was a reaction. I used to be like, I don't even want them on my hands. Now I'm just at the point like, all right.
With me and spiders, I have an agreement with them. If I see one in the corner, it's like, okay, I'll let you live. Just don't jump out on me. Just mind your place.
I had another friend who had arachnophobia. He had no problem with it. And he told me just one day he was working at his computer and a spider came and landed on him. And that's just no big deal. Then another came.
Okay, can you just stop? I'm in the basement where.
Well, let me ask the question. I would just ask the question, but I just was like, "Are you sure you weren't dreaming?" He was convinced he was not, but it sounded like something from, I don't know, horror film.
If I wake up screaming tonight,
it's the bishop's fault.
No, you're getting a phone call. What? You're an hour behind. It's not gonna be that big.
Well, then how about you just then just start talking to me about placenta. So just freak me out, then I'll have nightmares.
In some cultures, they encourage the woman to eat the placenta. Anyway, this is not the type of.
Hey, okay, now you want to go?
No.
Bishop Giles was explaining to me how honey is made. And all that honey, and explaining to me all this stuff. I'm just sitting there going, so I'm not scared, but disgusted. But Nature's even after all of that, it's fascinating. Even after all that, I say, hey, I'll still eat honey. It's still good. It's like, I don't need to know how it's made. I enjoy it. Wow. So this was, what are we talking about? Oh yeah, indulgences.
But we were moving on because we were going to tackle a question, because we do have some questions that were brought to our
attention,
and we're going to cover one of them today. But I was kind of trying to segue to that question with my whole animal killing thing.
Yeah,
but
you know, placenta.
I believe you said it first.
You see, you know what I was willing to do to make you feel better? I'm willing to give myself nightmares. Now I'm gonna have a dream where I'm back in the womb, not fully formed.
Would that be so bad?
Well, being fully aware.
Oh, bad.
How am I breathing?
Yeah. Anyway, so the question was, and maybe our listeners will figure out how this was supposed to connect.
I'm sure they will. We have smart listeners.
We do. We have highly intelligent listeners.
I hope you were not made more dumb from the last 10 minutes of the conversation.
Or the earlier part of this. It's just, you know, sibling humor.
Wait, not more dumb, just dumb. No many of you are dumb at all.
Anyway, question was, and this came from some young people. Do pets go to heaven? If not, where do they go?
No and nowhere. Next question. I'll put a little bit more effort to answering it. But even though I said it's not wrong.
Right.
Man has an immortal soul. And what makes man stand out from all other sentient life forms on this planet, as far as we know, in the known universe. And it's because of the immortal soul that man also is rational. He has memory, intellect, and will. He is able to form judgments. He is able to use logic. He is able to recognize the existence of his creator as being something outside of himself, greater than himself, and the cause and the mover of all creation. Man has an immortal soul. Anything else that has life, whether it is plant, because it has innate movement within itself, it grows, it has life. Animals have life. They grow. They also are sentient. They feel. They see. They respond to the stimuli. Okay, they have what we call instinct. This is why a bee knows how to do all those disgusting things I was talking about in order to make honey. Not really that disgusting, but they do it automatically because God created them to do it that way. So St. Augustine commented on that. It's like all of nature is telling us the existence of God, that we do these things because we are commanded by God to do so, and we do not fail in it. You, man, are called to something even greater, to give not just God your works, but your very self in it. Now, since it has life, either as a plant or an animal, we would say it possesses a soul. Plant soul, animal soul, all right? Now, these souls are not immortal. They are bound to the earth itself. So when they pass on, the soul does not go into eternity. It basically ceases to exist. That's essentially what happens. Well, the soul itself, because the body, just like for us, the body will remain. Even the point of it decomposes, you still have the atoms and everything break down. It's interesting when you think about that. People that we've known through history and whose remains have completely decomposed, their remains are still out there. In what form, we don't know. But anywho, so naturally speaking, the answer is no. Animals don't go to heaven, especially our dogs. We love our dogs. And their souls wouldn't go to any particular place. Now, with that said, does that mean God could not, if he so willed, at the end of the world, for which there will be created a new heaven and a new earth? The earth will not be destroyed. The universe will not be destroyed. It will be preserved by God. Does that mean that God could not bring back the animals, especially those that had an affection for the humans, and they be in a place in heaven, perhaps? Maybe the renewal of the Garden of Eden on earth and the animals there remain. It's possible. Maybe God might do that. Some may question, well, what's the need? I'm not sure, other than, well, I mean, as a demonstration of his power and glory. But would we need to have the comfort of the animal? Well, you have dogs. Love the dogs I've had. And I love all the other dogs except one. All the other dogs that I'm around. Just spent time this Saturday. I had a little golden retriever puppy. Oh, she was so cute. She was cute. She was very cute. And they give us support. They help. They give us joy in this life. And it is really, when it comes especially to the dog, it is like reconnecting with with mankind before the fall to what our nature is supposed to be, to have that union with God, with the other parts of God's creation. So could God do it? It's not beyond his power. But if we possess the beatific vision, we would not need these things. But it doesn't mean that God couldn't. So I'm not going to tell you that Fido. Why is Fido the go-to?
Wouldn't have been my go-to.
No, I mean, it's just like, that's for Fat Fido. Who names her dog? I never known a dog named Fido. I don't know why I said it. Who'll say Ben? It's Brother Pascal's dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, God could plan to have Ben come back, you know, and harass Brother Pascal for all eternity. But who knows? Who knows what God might plan to do?
Right.
As a demonstration of his glory and benevolence.
Right. I mean, that's what I tell myself. I mean, I had a dog. She was really mine, but she didn't last as mine very long. She became everybody's dog. She was pretty special. And I got her at a time in my life where I really needed her. And I just, yeah, it's something I just figured.
It was a litter. It was a litter of puppies. Yeah. And how did you pick it? How did you pick Taylor?
She picked me. She came to me, and that was like, that's the one I want. I knew it had to be a girl dog because I was in a house full of boys, including a male dog, and it was just intense. So I picked her out. I remember took her home just for a visit to see how it goes. I had to take her back, and she was crying. She didn't want to go back to the house. I don't blame her. But luckily, I think it was within like 2 weeks, I was able to actually bring her home. It was right around Christmas time.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I asked for weeks and begged and begged and begged, and I paid to have her spayed. I paid for her shots, all those things.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? I remember that.
I wanted.
She was so cute.
She was a great dog.
She was. I remember when at Christmas, we had her during Christmas, and I remember at Grandpa and Grandma's, and she was in the little green room. That's where we kept her. And I remember going in and peeking to see her. I just seen this little puppy on her back, a little cute little belly, just laying there with her tongue sticking out. And just like, you're such a sweet little thing. Playing out in the snow with her. You remember? And the first time she was out there, and I just remember she jumps in, hit it in the snow, and just peeks her head out.
Yes, yeah.
And then she was just I know I'm biased, and everyone's going to say it. And I also had another dog. Rufus was a great dog. Taylor was the best dog ever.
She was. I don't know how she ended up so well trained because I had no experience.
We didn't do anything.
Well, you did, but she was a really good dog, super obedient. We can't have a dog here for a lot of reasons, But I told His Excellency, I was like, if you knew my dog, you would want to keep her because she was very, very obedient. She was a great
She
dog.
shed like crazy though.
Sure, yeah. That's.
But man, too bad we didn't hunt. She was a great hunting dog.
Yes.
She was fantastic.
But anyway, so I do have that hope, if that in God, and again, God can do that if He wants to, and obviously I'll accept it if He does it because I'll be in heaven. I mean, it's the idea of wanting to see your loved ones in heaven. It's like, but you're in heaven, but we're all God's creatures. I'm sure we will probably see each other in heaven, recognize each other, and then go on our merry ways. Like, all right, glad to know you made it. Moving on. But
hey, girl, come here. And then it's the slow motion of her running towards you.
Oh, why are you trying?
And then she veers off and goes to Dad.
Right, because that ended up being really his dog.
In the end, it was his dog.
I mean,
well, you find that a lot of dogs, especially they seem like attached to the male, the authority figure in the house, as long as he allows it, I suppose. But yeah, she attached to Dad quickly.
I mean, even Mom, who was kind of on the fence about it, like getting another dog. I mean, we ended up getting Rufus because you don't say no to Father Bernard.
Yeah, Father Bernard was, he was just one step away from just dropping it off and leaving.
Right.
Just like, you figure it out.
You don't need a dog. No, he asked, and Dad wanted a dog. Mom was the one that was on the fence. And
Rufus was great.
Mom also really loved Taylor. So it's just. Yeah. So I just. It's one of those things like I would really love to see it happen, and maybe just because I'm obviously still in the world and I just have that attachment. And I know that if that is not what's given to me, it's because it's the best for me. So.
And I'm thinking of Rufus.
And people are like, all right, podcast over?
Yes, it's a podcast over. Well, I don't have the heart to continue. But, seriously, though, that's basic answer to the question. And it really is. It's not beyond the power of God. Will God will it to happen? We just leave that up to Him. We just accept whatever it is that God deems. If you want to believe that, God will do it, okay, go ahead. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to say it's impossible. Just, don't bank your salvation on that. Don't.
I'm just going to heaven because I want to be with my dog. And forget the beatific vision.
Yeah. So, and that's what that's about. But yeah, it's a good question.
It's a good question. And I would just say with that, if you have a question you would like us to answer, and by us, I mean probably mostly Father Anthony with commentary from Sister Catherine, you can email us at aimhigher.podcast@gmail.com. That's aimhigher.podcast@gmail.com. We'll definitely try to get that into the rotation. Part of it just depending on how long what our topic is of regular podcast, or maybe if we get a bunch of questions, we'll do a whole Q&A.
It'll be the question segment of today's episode.
You were going to say program.
I was going to say program.
Fire you. Yeah. And I can't do that.
No, you can't. You can't fire the one who isn't hired.
Right. There you go.
That's true, but
so with that in mind, we questions are welcome.
Please. Yes. I love answering questions. Just don't make it too personal. Well, I might mean that to be funny. Not personal
about you. Okay,
about you. Yeah, no. Oh, no. That's not what I meant. I meant like for yourself.
True or false? Did you really hate cheese as a child?
True. It was very true. I mean, you can ask those type of questions if you want, but I hope it's more about the faith, morals, things of that nature. But if you have to ask about something else, you can go to my other hobbies. Woodworking, books about ships, World War II, and World War III. I got an advanced copy. Anyway, all silliness put aside, we would love to have you engage us, and because you're a part of this podcast too, just as we're all part of the same Roman Catholic faith, the mystical body of Christ. And that's what we're striving to perfect each and every day in our lives. And that's what we try to encourage in this program, and also do it with a little humor so we can have that joy in this life, as the joy is emulates to some degree the joy we hope to have in heaven. So with that said, I think it's time to say, you know what I'm going to say, sister.
Deo gratias?
Well, that's what.
Oh, do you have to go first every time?
No, I don't. I don't have to go first every time.
But I suppose maybe you should. So
I don't know.
Okay, take that back. Do I
All
say it twice to cancel it, or can we just take
No,
it back?
no. You get you do it. You do it. Now, do it with meaning. Do it with feeling.
Deo gratias.
Deo gratias.